everyone, it's Erika Angle again, the CEO and co-founder of Ixcela. And today we're going to talk about why mindfulness and meditation are useful. And you've probably heard people tell you, oh, you should meditate, you should spend a little bit more time relaxing. And you think, all right, yeah, these are just people who are telling me the obvious. But today we're going to spend some time talking about the actual science behind it, and it's pretty fascinating, and I hope you will enjoy it. So, for starters, we're going to start with this concept about the gut as the second brain. So again, you've probably heard that term. What does that mean? Well, there are these sayings, right? Things like, I have a gut-wrenching feeling, or my gut instinct is telling me, or I have a gut feeling. And what you're trying to do is basically correlate some of the things that you feel in your gut with almost like decisions that the brain makes. And what's interesting though is that there is actual science that shows that there is in fact a very important connection between the brain and the gut. How? Well, the various microbes in the gut actually have their own neural network. So what does that mean? That means they have ability to communicate with each other. So your gut communicates with the brain communicates with the gut. And that is through a system called the enteric nervous system. So you've probably heard of the CNS, or the central nervous system. So that's where your brain is basically sending signals. It allows you to move. It tells your pinky to move when you're thinking about it. But there's another nervous system called the enteric nervous system that allows for the communication patterns between the gut and the brain and vice versa. All right, so let's talk about the enteric nervous system. So one, it comes from the same tissues as your central nervous system, and these happen during fetal development when you're itty bitty. There's some very interesting parallels, both structurally and chemically, to the brain, which is quite fascinating. And then one thing to say is the ENS does not make philosophical and executive decisions like the gray matter in your brain. However, through a nerve network, so that's what the different nerves are used as communication vehicles, your hormones, various neurotransmitters, and different electrical impulses allow for the two brains to talk to each other. So again, the brain talks to the gut talks to the brain, and it's important to just say that each affects the other. So for example, if you have stress or anxiety or something happening, obviously that affects your gut. If you have some sort of dysbiosis or unhappiness, that can affect your brain, further leading to additional stress and anxiety. So these two are very intimately linked together. Now, you've probably experienced at some point in your life, if you get stressed out or anxious, you almost feel like you have butterflies in your stomach, or sometimes, it increases the peristalsis and you feel like you have to run to the restroom. Well, that's because of what we're talking about here. And there are a whole variety of different psychological factors, again, sort of stemming back to this issue with the brain, that cause GI contractions, that cause inflammation, that cause pain, and other bowel problems. And so when often, someone will say, well, I have IBS or IBD, what does it mean specifically? You might go to see your gastroenterologist, they'll take a look. There's nothing specifically, wrong, but there is something wrong. There's an issue with this communication between your brain and your gut, and something could be happening in one or the other that doesn't necessarily show up on a scan, but is definitely there. So that brings us back to why mindfulness and meditation are really important. Because ultimately, if you can control some of these psychological factors, the stress, the anxiety, then you can limit the impact that has on your gut. So there was this really neat study done at Harvard where essentially patients were put through 9 weeks of meditation. And what they found was for people with IBS, IBD, a variety of different stomach issues, just doing simple meditation for 9 weeks decreased their pain, decreased their stress, and even showed a change in a variety of the inflammation genes. So again, hopefully this provides some context about why it's not some myth that your stomach and your gut and your brain communicate with each other, how that happens, and then again, why it's important to spend a little bit of time on mindfulness and meditation. Thank you.